Welcome to Unscripted with Russo. For our podcast, we decided to explore the people behind the narratives. I'll introduce decision makers and influencers and find out the intimate story behind their rise to success. Welcome, everybody, to Unscripted with Russo. I am so excited today to have Ken and Kenny Rampolla, good friends of ours and our neighbors in Hellertown. You guys are the owners of Tavern Brewing. So thanks for being here with us today.
Thank you. Thanks for having us.
It's great to be here.
Well, I want to ask you a little bit. Everybody kind of is getting to know you now, I think, through Lost Tavern. You guys have built quite an amazing reputation in Hellertown and now on Main Street, and we'll get to that in a little bit. But I want to find out a little bit about growing up and what your interests were when you started and how you got into the brewing business, because you run another company too. So, Ken, I'm going to start with you. Where did you grow up?
Grew up in Manhattan, New York City, and came to the Lehigh Valley when I was recruited to play football at Moravian College. So that brought me to the Valley, and I've been here ever since.
All right, so you were one of those kids running around using the subway nice and early, riding buses. I mean, were you?
Yeah, it's kind of like.
Had you ever heard of the Lehigh Valley? I mean, how did you find out about Moravian and get recruited by them?
I was sitting in a class in high school, and I got a knock on the door from my high school coach saying, hey, there's somebody down here who wants to see you from Moravian College, and set up a visit and came out, fell in love with the school, and it's my alma mater today.
And you've been a big supporter of Moravian ever since, right?
I'm chair of the board of trustees, so I'm there a lot.
Wow. Well, we've been fortunate to do some work with Moravian, and they're amazing to work with, and it's kind of incredible to see how the school's expanded and grown. It's been fun for you to be a part of that?
Yeah, it's the sixth oldest college. Anytime you get to take care or be a trustee of something so sacred and historic, it's pretty fun.
You mentioned football. Tell me a little bit about 7-year-old Ken Rampolla. What were you like? What kind of kid were you?
Probably, you should ask my wife. She might say the same as I am right now. But full of energy. I didn't sit around very much, so. Well, I got a chance to run out and play around and hit some people. It was kind of fun.
And that's a little bit of a challenge in New York, right? You don't have exactly the same amount of space that you do out in the country.
Lots of macadam, so you get to be really tough.
That's great. And so when you came out to Moravian, what did you study and what were you interested in?
Economics major, and so studied business, and was fortunate enough after graduation to join up with Bethlehem Steel. So joined their lube course and kind of started my real deep roots in the Lehigh Valley. And
what was it like working at Bethlehem Steel? I mean, I think that's for people who are new to the area or people who grew up here in the last 20 years, it's sort of this thing you hear about. And we see it as Arts Quest and the steel stacks and the backdrop, but we forget it was a real functioning place for a very long time. So what was it like to be a part of that?
It was in hindsight, it was just great. It was like going to graduate school for business. Totally prepared me for the steel industry, of which, obviously, as you mentioned earlier, we're still in today, especially now remaining in the Lehigh Valley and understanding the history and the roots and why the Lehigh Valley is like it is today, thanks to Bethlehem Steel. So being part of it, and I still get to see Hank Barnett on a very, very regular basis, so we still talk steel all the time.
That's a neat legacy to be a part of. You mentioned staying in the Lehigh Valley. What were your reasons to stay here in the Lehigh Valley?
Number one, my wife's hometown, and since we were both Moravian College graduates and this was her hometown, it was a great place to put down roots, raise a family, and start a business.
Well, mentioning your wife, Ann, who's just one of my favorite people, and I think everybody who knows Ann feels the same way. You're sitting next to your son here, Kenny.
Right. It's one of his favorite people.
One of his favorite people, right. You've got to say that, Kenny.
Absolutely.
So, Kenny, what about you? You were obviously born and raised in the Lehigh Valley.
I was, yep.
What kind of kid were you?
You can ask Ken. He's probably your best source. Maybe got into trouble on occasion, but always loved being outside. Great space to be outside in Lehigh Valley here. We're blessed to have. I'm a big into fishing, so from streams to ponds to just woods to get in trouble, and it's kind of always been the MO. So
now you went off grid a little bit. You did not go to Moravian College to follow your parents, but tell us about where you did go.
So I actually started at Trinity College in Hartford, Connecticut. Played a year of football there. Just didn't love it, to be candid. Had the opportunity to transfer to Penn State, Maine. So went out to State College finished my freshman year actually, and spent the next 3 years there. Studied abroad for 1 year in Florence, Italy.
I
but-
studied abroad in Florence, Italy too.
Did you?
Yep.
Yeah, it was a
Great.
blast. I
Best
miss it
city.
every
I love
day,
it.
yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I mean, I ended up back here for a reason. I love the Valley, so it's good to be home.
And what did you study in college?
Finance and international business.
Okay. So I want to ask both of you about your first jobs. And I'm talking not first job out of college, like first job ever. So Ken, what about you? What was like one of the first or early job you can remember having?
Shoveling driveways when it snowed. And pay was lousy, but you usually got a pretty good lunch out of it.
Was that something you did with friends or you did just for neighbors, or how'd you kind of get into that?
Well, first we usually get called by the local convent, that's where we got lunch, and then we grab a bunch of guys and try to make some money doing it.
Okay. And what do you think you look back and learned, or how do you think of that time from that?
Did not want to be a professional plower. That I knew for sure.
Okay. Well, you got to rule something out.
But it was, I probably don't also want to work outdoors in the winter all the time.
It's tough, right? I know, every time the snow falls. I thought about getting back into the news business, and then I'd be at home with the kids during a snowstorm, and I thought, no, I don't think so. I don't think I had to be out there reporting. I don't think so. What about you, Kenny? What was your first or an early job that you had?
No, I'm glad you asked that because I did not know his answer. But now it makes sense why you got the four-wheeler for me. That was solid because I actually was plowing driveways with a buddy when I was about 12 years old. We kind of started like a little landscaping side project with for neighbors, so we got involved in that, and that was through the summer and winter. So.
And what did you learn from that? You love the outdoors, so.
I do. I mean, I enjoyed it probably more than shoveling because we were driving a four-wheeler, but no, hard work and community. I got to meet a lot of neighbors in person through that, and got to become friendly with a handful of them. So that was good.
That's awesome. So tell me a little bit about your early career when you left Bethlehem Steel, Ken. What did you go on to do, and how did you get into the business that you're in today?
Had the opportunity while still working for Bethlehem Steel to make contacts, and was approached by one mill in the United States at the time about maybe going out and becoming their sales agency. So we started as a one-man organization representing one mill, and through various growth spurts, we're up now to 13 steel mills. There's 7 of us in the company, and we are probably the largest independent sales agency in the steel business right now.
What did you learn in the process of building a business? I mean, having been going through this for the last 7 or 8 years myself, what are some of the lessons learned or things that you would say to people that are considering going out on their own in some way?
Number one, I think, is keep your ego in check. Realize that if you're going to run a small company and a small business, you're going to learn to do a lot of different things, and you're going to learn to deal with a lot of different people, both professional and maybe not so professional, and how you treat and respect those people, all those people during your tenure as a business owner really makes a difference.
That's really good advice, because you do come across so many different people with different skill sets, and they bring different things to the table. And I like your shoveling experience, because I feel like, you like the lunch, you like the pay, but you had to do the hard work, right? I mean...
But if you come into the brewery and they're really busy, you'll see me sometimes washing dishes behind the bar, because if it's good enough for me to do, it's good enough for anybody to do. So let's all pitch in and help.
So really living your life as an example, so that you're willing to roll your sleeves up and do any job.
Yes, and Ann reminds me that I've washed more dishes at Lost Tavern than I ever did at home. So.
Well, I have to tell you, when we came in, and you guys were so gracious to have us in to film for the Peak TV, I loved learning to use the little washer thing where it's kind of fun. You put the glass upside down and it cleans the glass for you. And I've come to learn from some bartending experience just for charity that I guess that's a staple to have, but that was one of my first experiences there. What about you, Kenny? What was your path after college? What kind of jobs did you have, and how long have you been working with your dad?
I jumped pretty much right into the steel industry. So one of my dad's requirements of me before I was to get involved directly with the family business was to spend some time out at a steel mill. So I did a year of inside sales and a marketing internship prior to my senior year at Charter Steel out in Saukville, Wisconsin. So that was a great learning experience to be hands-on and to really understand that our job today from both sides of the desk. But yeah, I moved back after a year and been working with ORMI in the steel industry, and then with Ken and my partner Tony and our team at Lost Tavern.
All right, good. Well, we're going to take a short break, but when we get back, I want to talk a little bit about building a business that now has a second generation moving into it, and kind of what that means, what that legacy means to you, your family, and the industry. So we'll be back with Ken and Kenny Rampolla in just a minute. Home to the Iron Pigs in Dorney Park, Allentown is a city without limits. Food, art, dance, you name it, it's got it. Allentown's historic roots are matched with its vibrant culture to create an adventure that you'll never forget. Thinking of taking a trip? Follow Lehigh Valley, PA on Instagram, and you'll find attractions, hotels, and sites you won't want to miss. All right, everybody, we're back with Unscripted with Russo. I'm here with Ken and Kenny Rampolla. We're talking a little bit about the building of their business, RMI, and what you've done in that industry, Ken, and what you've now built with Kenny coming into the business. It's difficult to sustain a business, let alone a family business, to transfer generations. And I know, Kenny, you've got a daughter now, and your sister's got a couple kids, I believe. So, what is that legacy that you're hoping to build, Ken?
Well, at RMI, both of my kids are involved. So both Liz and Kenny work with me, and we try to keep it as family and non-family as we can. I'm not their father at work. I'm their coworker and person they can talk to and push back on. So every once in a while I'll hear Kenny say, "Hey, Dad," but a lot of times it's I've talked to Ken, and my daughter will be in the middle of a meeting and then she'll be leaving and she'll say, "Bye, I love you, Dad." But other than that, it's kind of like we try to keep the family, use that family bond that we have as a strength, but not as a crutch and always depending on it. And they push back. I have two pretty smart, independent kids. They push back pretty hard when they don't agree with something I'm trying to do.
It's pretty cool that you're open-minded to that, though, and that you've obviously raised them to think that way. What about you, Kenny? How has that been, being a part of the family business, working alongside your sister, working alongside your dad? Tell me a little bit about that dynamic.
That's been awesome. Candidly, I've been learning from my mom and dad, obviously since I've been born, but it just becomes more and more of a pleasure. And from professional to personal, I'm always picking stuff up from my mom and dad daily. That learning curve when we got into it was certainly something to kind of deal with, I think, on both ends of us, just because, the Ken dad thing he was talking about is still something that, it's different from situation to situation, but we have a ton of mutual respect for each other, and I think we work extremely well together. And at the end of the day, even if there are tough days, there's a lot more beneficial ones and great
I think
ones.
The one thing I might add that what's really cool about this kind of combination of companies is I have 40 years experience in the steel business. Kenny has 10. So obviously the amount of information I have is significantly more than Ken has learned. In the brewing business, he knows more about the brewing business and the marketing of it than I do. So I'm learning as much from him in that business as he's learning from me in the steel business. So there's that kind of, and our conversations will go one after another. We don't talk 10 minutes in steel and then switch. It just kind of goes back and forth. So
that's really an interesting perspective. And I think that, Kenny, that must be kind of cool for you. How did you decide to start Lost Tavern? What brought you into wanting to get into the brewing industry and really on such a big scale? You guys have ramped this up pretty quickly.
So Ken obviously owns a building in Hellertown where Lost Tavern and RMI sit today. The space, we had been chatting about different ideas for years. Two of our partners who came into us early on were Robert Grimm and Anthony Ganji. They were brewing out of Tony's Garage at the time. We're friends with my sister back in high school. They were looking for a space. When it kicked off, it was more of a silent partnership from Ken and I. He knew I was passionate about the industry, and we were excited about the opportunity to work together with these gentlemen. And sooner than later, I don't know if it's being Italian or just because Ken's business acumen, but we can't be silent too long. So silent partners transitioned to pretty gung-ho equal partners as far as involvement in the business, and that's been a pleasure. Yeah, it's been fun. And obviously we need a beer after some steel industry days too, so that's convenient.
And it's a great place. You've really built a sense of community in Hellertown. I think it's truly a destination that has helped bring people to the town. And as a business owner who also has a business on Main Street, it's kind of been a cool experience. Ken, why is that community piece so important to you? Because you could start a brewery anywhere.
Yeah, I think it's the nature of the brewing business. I think it really is specific to that industry, that it isn't, we're not a sports bar. We're not, by our very nature, the way we're set up, you come in and it fosters conversation. So with the outside area that we have and the feeling of, we're part of the town. We want people to know we're from Hellertown. We want, even our Bethlehem tap room still has those roots very clearly say the beer is brewed in Hellertown. So we want all our patrons to know about Hellertown, and we want all the people of Hellertown to be proud of, LTB being there.
Well, I think you've accomplished that for sure. We certainly are. I know we've got a few on the staff that are regulars. So, Kenny, what are some of the things that you set out to do for Lost Tavern that were different? So not just in the beer, but also in the environment and the stuff that you offer as the experience when you go there.
I think one thing that we've been very successful at creating is a dynamic of our slogans: honor the past, craft the future. So we want a space that you can come in and get a classic style of beer while also having some of the new and exciting things, all focused around conversation community. I think that is a pretty broad statement in the brewing industry as far as the tap room is concerned, but we really try to live that every day. And it's not just from management and owners to patrons, but our team's a family, and we really try to do that. Try to instill that in everything we do. So
yeah, you can get that sense. I think one of the things that's kind of cool is it is a very family-friendly place. It's not unusual to see the grandkids running around, right, Ken? And you've got games like old-fashioned board games that people can just take out and play. You have live music all the time.
You have to put up with a Jenga falling every once in a while, but it's okay.
You both have done other community initiatives, whether it's things through Penn State or through Moravian or through the Chamber. Why is this community and giving back to the community you live in so important to you guys personally?
Community is everything for us. It's especially, Lehigh Valley being where I was born and raised. Penn State, you mentioned. One thing I'm very proud of is the Hops for Hope event we do every year, which is giving back raising money for pediatric cancer. That's something that was impacted me greatly as when I was at Penn State and seeing that movement and how important that was for families. So to be able to carry that on past college and still be involved in it, and we actually are involved directly with Penn State Lehigh Valley to give that money back to Penn State and the children. So that's extremely important to me. That's
great. What about you, Ken?
Well, we've been fortunate from day one. We've been very lucky. Annie and I have been blessed with not only a healthy family, but the ability to go out and earn a nice living in the Lehigh Valley. So it's our opportunity to give back. When we, at Moravian, we sponsor blind scholarships. We know we're helping a student at Moravian College. We have no idea who the college is choosing to give that scholarship to. So it's that kind of feeling of you're making a difference in every day that you're around. So it's payback. It's just paying it forward, rather.
All right, well, we're going to take a short break. When we come back, I do want to talk to you guys a little bit more about everything Lehigh Valley, some of your favorite things, some of those maybe less known things that you love to do or grew up doing that you'd like other people to know about. So you're listening to Unscripted. We'll be right back. Any time of year, the Lehigh Valley is an exceptional place for food, drink, and entertainment. Whether you're cooling off from the summer heat at Dutch Springs or shopping for just the right kind of gift at Chris Kindle Market, you will make memories all year round. For more information on what the Lehigh Valley has to offer, check out Discover Lehigh Valley's website at discoverlehighvalley.com. Welcome back to Unscripted with Russo. I'm here with Ken and Kenny Rampolla from Lost Tavern Brewing, and we've been having a great conversation about your various businesses, your move to the Lehigh Valley, Ken, your upbringing here, Kenny. I want to ask you a little bit more about all the things you love in the Lehigh Valley. So tell me about a night out in the Lehigh Valley. What does that mean to both of you? What's your sort of first choice of what you would do on a free night out in the Lehigh Valley?
I'll jump in. No shocker here that it's all about beer in my free time, even though my wife, my 2-year-old daughter might be getting bored of it already. But there's so many great breweries in the Lehigh Valley. We're proud to be part of Lost Tavern, but proud to be part of the Lehigh Valley brewing community. So it's a great pleasure to be able to go out and see friends because we're all pretty close, and being able to grab a beer and see some people in the industry is always a good time.
I think it's interesting because I don't know that people would realize often we think of people who are also in your industry as a competitor. And I love hearing that. We work pretty hard at ASR Media to be collaborative with other people also in our industry, whether it's, working together in an event or sharing footage or talking about best practices, or people come in and share like, what equipment are you using? What did you upgrade to? I love that, and I feel like it gives you, I don't know, just like a whole nother perspective on what people are doing and best business practices. What do you get from that experience by being with other brewers?
So much, honestly, and it has been truly refreshing. And I do enjoy selling steel, and it's been a great career so far. But it's a pretty cutthroat business. So with Lost Tavern, it's been really refreshing to be able to openly communicate and talk about business practices and learn from other breweries, and hopefully be able to pass some knowledge on that we've had as well. But the collaboration factor goes from talking about different beers to marketing opportunities to people in the industry, and it's been really fruitful, I think, for every facet of the business. So
cool. What about you, Ken? What's a fun night out for you?
If it's summer, it's usually taking a walk with a golf club in hand with Ann. So it's one of the things I love about the Lehigh Valley is just the open spaces. So whether it's on the bike trail, taking a walk, or just going downtown with all of the historic sites that are down there, it's not uncommon for Ann and I just to be walking around downtown, normally with exercise.
It is amazing how many open spaces, and for people who, might not be from here or new to the area or coming for a visit, Kenny, you mentioned fishing and getting outside, and that you love to do things that are, outdoors. Tell people about some of the places you like to go that they might not have heard of.
Candidly, I'm very blessed to have, I live out in Williams Township, and I have some neighbors that have a lot of farmland that they let me play on. So, but the Saucon Creek down there, that's kind of where I grew up trout fishing. So to be able to fly fish down there, there's so many great streams and limestone streams locally here that are pretty nationally famous, actually. And so it's great to be able to just spend a half an afternoon and get out and not have to make a trip too far outside.
That's great. And if you're not enjoying the outdoors for sport, for fun, do either of you have like some favorite festivals or places you like to go? There's a lot of cool happenings around the Lehigh Valley.
So I say right around this time of year, right in February, there's the Lehigh Valley Beer Week. So that's a great time. That collaborative spirit we just talked about, you get to live that every day. So there's great events at all the breweries, some local restaurants that are very beer centric. So that's always fun, and very much enjoyed it.
All right, awesome. So I'm going to ask you one more question. What is your favorite place to go and hang out in the Lehigh Valley? It could be a favorite restaurant. It can be a favorite attraction. What's the place you love to go? Ken?
Well, other than one of our places, there's so many great restaurants. I'd say my safe answer is anywhere with Ann. So if I have Ann with me, I'm fine. Anywhere in the Lehigh Valley.
It is amazing, though, to see how the culinary scene has grown in the Lehigh Valley, isn't it?
There's so many choices. There's so many great places, and you don't have to, go to the same place anymore like we used to.
I have always thought that I whenever there's something new, I try to get there and try it out. And then I'll get one of the magazines and I'll go through it and I'm like, wait a second, how did I miss this and miss that? I thought I was on top of the scene. It's kind of incredible if you think even just to maybe 8 or 10 years ago.
Right.
Yeah, it's been good. What about you, Kenny?
Yeah, I love jumping around Lehigh Valley all out. I'm closer to Easton, so we find ourselves downtown Easton a lot of time on the weekend. Naturally, we're in downtown Bethlehem a lot with the new tap room, which has been great because I spent a lot of time down there when I was younger, whether it be with my mom when I was very young or through high school at Music Fest. I spent a lot of time down there, so it's kind of cool to see how that's developed and the businesses that are down there. So
and now have your own hangout right on Main Street.
Absolutely.
It's a great legacy. Well, thank you, Ken and Kenny Rampolla from Lost Tavern Brewing, for being with us today, and we learned a lot about your lives and your interests. And if you haven't been there, we encourage our listeners to get out, try Lost Tavern Brewing. There's all kinds of cool live music, and it's fun for the whole family. So
Cheers.
Thanks for being on Unscripted with Russo. Until next time. There's nothing like wintertime in the Christmas city, but any time of year, Bethlehem's rich history, culture, food, and fun make it a great hangout spot. Take a walk on the artsy South Side, catch a great band at Steel Stacks, or enjoy the quaint history of Hotel Bethlehem. There are so many options, but before you book your trip, head over to Facebook and like Lehigh Valley, PA. Before you know it, you'll have a full itinerary of places you won't want to miss. All right, I am here with Ken and Kenny Rampolla, and we are going to do our bonus round. Are you guys ready? This is rapid fire questions.
Oh boy.
And you have not heard these questions, correct?
Correct.
Correct. All right, so this is how we're going to go. Ken, we're going to give you a breather. We're going to let Kenny answer first, and we're going to let you answer second. So you get a second to collect your thoughts. Kenny, are you ready?
Let's go.
Your favorite hobby?
Fishing.
Golf.
If you won the lottery, what's the first thing you would do?
Vacation.
Buy a boat.
What is one food you can't live without?
Pizza.
Oh, salmon.
How healthy. I don't believe you. Which actor would you cast to play you in a movie about your life?
Mark Wahlberg.
Ooh, that's a good. Wow. Has to be older. Pass.
Kenny, what actor would you pick to play your father?
Harrison Ford.
Good one. All
Harrison
right.
Ford.
If you didn't have the job you have now, what would you be doing instead?
Full-time brewery, but
But you're already doing that.
say commercial fisherman.
I was going to say like fishing tours in Montana or something like that. All right, Ken, if you didn't have the job you have now, what would you be doing instead?
Teaching people to sell.
Excellent. I think there's plenty of time for that.
Doing that, I'm just saying.
Name one person who inspires you.
Ken.
And
All right. That was awesome. Thanks, Ken and Kenny. Thanks for doing the bonus round. This is Unscripted with Russo.